Rutty. Okay. I'm having a chat about our third attempt, Skype having its occasional problems, with the composer Alejandro Rutty, Associate Professor of Music at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And we are going to be speaking in doing this little chat about his new CD. It's called Exhaling Space, and he will explain. I'm fairly clear now what he is implying with that title. This CD is a Novona release, 2018, and a host of marvelous colleagues you have rounded up for this fascinating CD. It is, I can tell, people who are going to have a look at this CD, it is not at all what you are expecting, I think. And that is the greatest compliment I can possibly pass along to you, Alejandro. When music, I think we have 10 tracks on it altogether on this piece, a total of six, looks like eight major pieces. They are they imply coy things by titles. We'll get to that. They are fun. They are very serious. They are beautifully composed. I salute you as a fellow musician when every single moment sparkles with originality and freshness. That's quite a compliment. So that's what we're going to talk about. Truly, really an amazing CD. Alejandro, you are, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, okay, I'll take that. Alejandro, you are Argentinian from Swiss German heritage. Just a quick overview of that immigration process to Argentina. I know you don't know much about it from your family history, but just the idea of people making that kind of a big leap. It has to be courageous. Any way you look at it, any immigrants, they're courageous people. And then tell me a little bit about your life as a young uh, person in Argentina before eventually you immigrated to the U.S. Go.
Yeah, well, immigrating in those days, in the 1880s, when all of my great grandparents came to Argentina, it was a different thing. No Skype, no internet. You left, never came back. You never had the money. And my family, on one side Swiss, that ended up in the north in the Swiss near a Swiss uh, colony, and then Italians and Galicians and Catalonia. So it's a pretty standard or relatively standard mix for an Argentinian person from Buenos Aires.
And
And
how about your education there? How did that move along?
yeah, I studied a little bit as a young person in the conservatory, in the provincial conservatory, and then I did my formal university training at the Catholic University in Buenos Aires, which was founded by Ginastera in the 60s, the School of Music, and which was the place to go in order to do composition, which is what I wanted to do. And there I studied three separate degrees in music, one in composition, one in orchestral conducting, and another one in choral conducting. And all of them were invaluable, to be able to see music from different angles, not knowing really what was going to be my livelihood or how would I make my living later in life. And I actually did all of those things at one point or another.
But a tremendous strategy because as a composer, you would need to have some training to conduct your larger works, and so on. So as well as choral conducting, they are different skills. They occasionally meld, but these are two different kind of skill sets: choral conducting and instrumental conducting. So sounds very intelligent to me. So you studied mainly in Buenos Aires, the great, wonderful capital of Argentina, and then what gave you the what triggered the move to the U.S. study, but where and how?
Well, the word is that in Buenos Aires, you turn around a stone and you find a composer. Uh,
Hmm, I
so
had
at
no
some point,
idea.
and it's a little bit of a tradition. At some point, you go, you know,
Sure.
abroad to see what's out there, to do, some other former other training. And then I came to the States and I did some grad work in conducting. and in composition. So I had a master's in conducting from the University of New Mexico and a PhD in music composition from the University of Buffalo, SUNY Buffalo.
Boy, there's a climate change for you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Undergrad master's program in New Mexico, and then at SUNY in Buffalo, New York. What a city, by the way, and what a climate change for sure. Uh, I'm going to just quote you a little bit, and it does have to do with the title of this CD. But you say, quote, taking time for our human rhythms is kind of where you are coming from. You even mentioned that in your old age you're starting to come from this. I saw an interview, but it's a very serious idea in this fast-paced world to kind of slow down and have a look and distill it to the most essential components. And I loved the way you put that in an interview, taking your music, as you did with your saxophone concerto that we hear in it's a completely different literation, I think that's the correct word, on this CD. And you are now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are really kind of condensing your thought or simplifying your thought. Give me an overview of your philosophy these days and that how it does with the CD.
Well, I think that historically you see in most composers that in their 20s and 30s, it's all about fireworks and chest thumping and packing as much information as you can in the littlest time and everything. The danger is that things sometimes are too busy or one tries to say too many things. And I have definitely done that. And as composers or artists age, um, sometimes you say, okay, what of all of this is really necessary, and can I say less or more with less, right? And there is a famous first line of Garcia Marquez' 100 Years of Solitude, which I'm not going to recite by memory, but if you go and read it, or if anybody could go and read it and find out how in one sentence that is not busy, it's a sentence that is not busy, there are probably 2 pages worth of information. So what I'm trying now is to see, can I have all of this information so the music has depth and you could listen to it many times and find different things, and yet not write too many notes, too many flashy moments, too many tricks, which is a temptation because I've grown fond of the tricks that we and this is a little bit where I am. Fighting against the temptation of putting more fancy stuff in the music and sometimes succeeding in just writing something that's incredibly transparent and we always know what we have to listen to and there isn't any note too many, but yet it has some depth.
Yes, and I would say that you are, I've mentioned this earlier to you, at a level of your compositional level, which is extraordinary and very high and very sophisticated. It's obvious from what I've listened to on this CD, which teases a little bit. Some people might be expecting a whole lot more of a tango flavor, and so it's quite an interesting CD because you take people and entertain them, but that you put them in 2 or 3 different frames of mind. But I guess what I was trying to say is that there's really nothing simple about anything that you write. It's really really interesting material and lots of subtle things. I found myself quite amused. We're going to mention some of these pieces. In fact, I'd like to just kind of have a look at some of the music that's on the CD again because it is all so interesting. The intellect. I love using that word when it's appropriate, and your intellect is so refreshing and so complicated and charming. You know what I mean? I listen to music all the time, of course. That's part of what I'm doing here in my old age. But when things really, when and this CD, I can tell you there was not a single cliche. There was not a single moment that wasn't unique and interesting. And here, let me just let me move down a little bit. Let's just kind of have a browse because the titles of your pieces are fascinating and fun and coy and have subtext and all the rest. And I just think, you know, it's your clever mind at work. I guess we might as well just start. And by the way, is it pronounced Bayo, the Bayo String Quartet?
Yeah, they are stupid.
What an incredible ensemble in terms of interpreting your music. Uh, and also there is a video that I'll put up of them playing Exhaling Space from your website. So let's just talk about the first piece that opens the CD, and let me throw a couple things at you, and then I want you to kind of correct my trajectory. Um, what I write down is this is before I knew you better. I write down this is tango fun with a twist of serious contemporary writing. So you give people kind of that are interested in tango what they want, but you also give them a kind of uplifting sophistication that's quite exciting and quite interesting. The intro is full of energy and not a little good humor. Yeah, structural interest. You know you're fabulous at coloration, and the writing. Okay, tell me about now. You tell me about Exhaling Space.
Well, conceptually, it's about um, the the fumes. It started from the fumes, the big NASA picture of the fumes of Enceladus into out into the space, and then if there's this big burst of violent fumes that go into space, therefore there's a dynamic there that we could explore, which is something that is explosive, and then it just diffuses out in the vacuum, right? And that same thing is somehow could be matched to our act of breathing in and out. That was conceptually what I was thinking about to explore. Musically, the first half, which is all the exciting rhythmic stuff, it's less based on tango, which I have used many times as a found object or as a found style to operate. I typically have found a style that exists, typically a world music style, and then use it as some sort of material to manipulate one way or another. So in this case, it's mostly some amalgam of Latin folk, South American, more than Latin, South American folk music with some things from other places. But it's not something that you could say, oh, it's this or it is that. As if you knew South American folk, you would say, oh, this is a chacarera, blah, 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 blah. You wouldn't know exactly what it is, but you could see the some of the tropes. Um, but also the idea is that you should be able to whistle through the whole thing.
Really? Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Because you know that as you hinted, what I've noticed is what's always surprises me is the second halves of many of your pieces. That second half of the piece is very interesting. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, but you said whistle through, and what I see in front of me is a note that says a big cluster chord. Nice. So
Well, almost. Um, well, and the second half, once the big going of the fumes into the vacuum or into this empty space, what you have is one long line of metaphorical introspective space. And curiously enough, there is a quartet in Mexico, the Carlos Chavez quartet, for which I wrote it. They played this piece many times. And they always thought that they were going to get the big commentaries and big claps based on the flashy first half. And they told me that they were surprised that people always comment about the end of the piece or the second half, which I like very much myself too. So
yeah, and my note about it says winds down in the most compelling and fascinating manner. Brilliant.
yeah, well, it dissolves.
It's
It,
just it's an
I,
amazing piece.
yeah.
Amazing piece. Okay, now let's move on. The second track, Transparent Sun for violin and piano. And let me just kind of again give you my overview. First of all, I was blinded, hello, by the first couple of moments. It was indeed a blinding, brilliant, sunning sunburst. At least that's what I experienced in my mind and in my ears. So you're managing your metaphors. Your musical metaphors are absolutely brilliant, and with that sustained violin tone at the top. I mean, there's so much mystery in much of your writing. Tell us about Transparent Sun.
Well, Fabian Lopez, who is the violin player who plays it, who recorded it, wanted a piece, and I heard him play. So, and he's such a terrific, incredible player. And once he said that sometimes all he needs to make music is a long note. Just if you give him a long note somewhere, he'll make music with it, which is sometimes the opposite of the youthful approach in terms of composing. Of I just put a lot of stuff, and the musicians need to do it. In this case, I thought very much about, there are parts that are really difficult and fingerings and everything, but what can I do to invite his music into this piece? So I consciously found and looked for how to get his sound being a part of the music, a part of not the music in general, but a part of the meaning of the music.
I was going to say character. Maybe,
that's right.
even.
Yeah. That's it.
His character, that violin character,
yeah.
even on a sustained note, was not, and I don't mean just boring expressive. It was told me volumes.
That's right. Yeah, and if you're a violin player, you see a long note there. It says espressivo, delicatissimo. Well, it means you have to say something with that note. So you need to bring something of yourself, besides your normal translation of notes into sound. And sometimes in new music, when the traditions of expression are not established, that is, we all know how to phrase Brahms, we all know how to articulate Bach, but you don't know how to phrase Rutty, right? Nobody knows, because so if you give that thing, they know, oh, I need to come up with a sound for this phrase or for this long note or for this floating line, and therefore it's not difficult in the Ferneyhough type of sense. It's difficult in the sense that you have to play it, bring in your own musicianship, and because these people are extremely talented, the musicianship that they bring is just amazing. Also, Inaras and Mane, the pianist.
And in this piece also you, as I said, every note on this CD is entertaining. I mean, every bit of it is entertaining in the best possible way. And I'm speaking from my point of view. I listen and listen and listen, days, weeks, months, decades. So when I say everything is brilliantly entertaining, that's what I mean. Everything was there were surprises and moments, episodes. I love the way you have so many little episodes, different moods and so on. I see in just dealing with Transparent Sun, I've described vividly, I think that opening, which is so shocking and exciting and so exactly perfect, but the nostalgic, and there's some wonderful jazz chords, or at least hints thereof, all of that help make people feel comfortable, if you will, listeners feel comfortable, that are expecting a certain type of sound maybe, but there is also this pure contemporary music writing in every single one of these pieces. That's why I keep complimenting you, because it's such beautiful writing, and everything makes perfect sense. Things switch gears. I see the piece tears into a kind of tango-esque rhythmic. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Pattern and busyness. That's all that fun stuff. There's plenty of virtuoso playing for fiddle player, but not dumb, silly stuff. It all makes perfect sense and flows brilliantly with the rest of the whole piece. I say here, it's great writing, big catharsis, chaos, wonder, staggering, fascinating. That's Transparent Sun. And that's
Okay.
before I started putting the stars after pieces. So we're now going to move on to the third
Okay.
track, and this one I have one, two, three, I have four, stars after it as a highlight. And I will try and shut up and let you really have at this one. Now this is so lovely and so interesting and so warmly satisfying. The title,
Wow.
As You Say, for two pianos and wind instruments. In this case, soprano sax, which is such a glorious color.
Two violins.
Excuse me, two violins. What did I say?
Piano.
So sorry. Two violins and wind instrument. In this case, I guess, in other words, people who pick this piece up manuscript or they buy the work, they can choose
Mhm.
whatever solo instrument they like.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So in this case, you decided on soprano sax, and I have found that instrument mysterious
Mm.
and just a very special color, a very human kind of color. Tell me about it. But two violins opening and this wonderful bouncing string dialogue. You even mentioned, I think, in the liner notes, this is really a very clean, clear dialogue between the two fiddles. Oh, there's mystery, there's Frenchness, there's murmurs and whispers, there's all kind of stuff. Tell me about As You Say.
Well, this is as close as it gets for me to trying to really work the metaphor of the piece, which is a dialogue. But in dialogues, if we really listen closely, it's never one person speaks and the other one speaks back. There's always some sort of back and forth. There are nods. There are yes, if, but. There are there are hesitations, all of those things somehow I wanted to integrate them. And to some degree, within a musical structure, I think it still can be felt that there are these two instruments speaking with each other.
Without doubt.
And and the saxophone just listens for a while and then talks and then listens for a while. And I'm very, and it's a piece that I like a lot, even though I never thought that I would like a piece without any bass.
Yeah, and by the way, it's also, I swear, did you borrow something or whatever? Or am I all wet? I hear this wonderful Renaissance tonality and this kind of Renaissance tune. What's that all about? Because it's charming.
No, it's an original.
Of course.
At some point 20 years ago, I was very interested in French Baroque, um, and 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 its ornamentation, uh, because also it linked to tango ornamentation of the Argentinian type of tango ornamentation,
Bingo.
uh, and Middle Eastern oud ornamentation, which in this case, in this piece, is not present. But I dug up some old tune that I had composed where there was this kind of French Charpentier um
And
style.
it's such a charming surprise that when the piece reaches into that charming restful tonality or whatever, a kind of like it's a place of comfort. Maybe this kind of tonality and the hinting at that kind of Baroque sort of sound. As I said ad nauseum, and will continue to say, surprise after surprise after surprise, and that, by the way, is that's the gold medal, right? That's the gold star for an audience, is to be continuously amused and entertained and interested, and you do it here. Colors are so interesting, so many unexpected things, fabulous writing, and then it just stops. No, there you go. See, everyone mark that wry laugh, because the next piece, and this is where a lot of some of the people that interviewed you that I paid a little attention to found so delightful, and it's called Martian Milonga, which I presume is a crazy tango dance party.
Yes, it's both a tango dance party and a one of the tango rhythms. So the milonga rhythm is what is heard in the second half of the piece, which is a traditional standard um, faster rhythm. And this piece comes is an arrangement of the third movement of the saxophone quartet concerto I wrote a few years ago, which was about future incarnations of tango music in future human society, and the third movement happened to be in the year 2100s in Mars. Therefore, this is Martian Milonga. And curiously enough, one of the things that I have been doing in the last few years is, okay, I wrote a saxophone quartet and orchestra or small orchestra concerto. Can I write that same music for a combo? Would I be able to narrow down this music and play it in a combo in a way in which I don't lose the meaning of the piece? And so I rescored many or some of my orchestral works for combo to see whether they could work. And also because I'm playing in a combo such as that one as a bass player, it's a lot of fun to meet this piece as opposed to just wait every now and then whenever it gets played for the sax quartet plus orchestra.
Yeah, kind of like an opera. Well, you haven't gone there yet. Well, write an opera and then have it performed twice, and then wait another 30 years, perhaps, if
That's
you're lucky.
right.
Anyway, it's a very charming piece, and it speaks to your. Did we discuss? Maybe this is a time to jump in just very quickly. I'm starting to run out of time, but the idea of your kind of performance life in groups and small ensembles, because of course there's always the jazz involved. Give us that before you went all academic and brilliant. What was your life? What was your life as a
Well,
trumpet?
I remember a night in my 20s when the evening went like that. I had a rehearsal with my choir that I was conducting, Palestrina, a concert with my string orchestra that I was also conducting with Geminiani and Corelli, and at night my rock band was playing, where I was playing bass and singing, and I thought that was the best thing ever. And there's no music that I get to play that I don't like, and I have been playing piano, accompanying mostly, and sometimes playing in a tango ensemble. And I recovered in the last few years the bass, the electric bass, which I used to be okay. And now, thanks to many hours of practice, I can sound like a real player.
And you do have your moment
Yeah.
on the CD, among others, as well as the last piece, Qualia. Is it Qualia or Qualia?
Quali.
Qualia. Solo piano piece. There you are playing it. But I just found this all so charming. And now I've got one that's got about six axes after it. Here's the title, everybody. This is what I mean about this the coyness. I can't think of any other way to put it. The title is More Music for Examining and Buying Merchandise for solo instrument, in this case again soprano sax, and electronics. And again, here's my compliment to you about you. This piece, it says solo instrument, solo sax, and electronics. The mind goes crazy thinking about what it could be or might be or whatever. The mastery of your use of electronic sounds, and I'm so fascinated by this, but it's just absolutely brilliant in terms of the balancing, the colors. There's not a phony piece of electronic garbage anywhere. You know what I mean? It could have if you written this when you were 23, maybe maybe this is a beauty, absolutely incredible, and it's all about echoes. Or not? You tell me about this piece.
At one point, I was very interested in the history of Musak and the history of music used as mood control by, the industries, you name it,
Sure.
research, and
Muzak. Remember
yeah,
Muzak?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and And I wanted to write a piece in which this concept of music for mood control, it's not a piece that would be a Muzak piece, but essentially it has that purpose to slow down and to reference that world. By the way, in the Journal of Retail and something, I don't remember exactly the name, there's an article in which, they actually calculate what type of music makes you feel that your stay at the cashier, at the register, it feels shorter or longer. So, there's a whole world of study on that, and it was nice to peek at that and come up with a piece on the other side.
A lovely wink and nod, if you will, to that idea. Let's see. I guess we'll. Oh, I think I have even more stars for. Now, this is another hilarious. I hope. Slap me around if I missed it, but the piece is called Guitars for two clarinets and electronics. Now, would you kindly explain what the devil you were thinking and what that's about? How come? Why do you deliberately decide guitars for two clarinets and electronics?
Well, because the guitars in the clarinets are throughout the piece trying to convert themselves into guitar by playing some type of guitar style music, mostly, West African uh, electric guitar uh, things, or like on the style of Ali Farka Touré. They have some sort of bluesy licks, but with a different type of sound. And if you hear those artists, they have a particularly interesting sound. Um, and what the electronics do is they help those clarinets, which are playing those guitar patterns. They bring in the distortion or the automation that makes those clarinets at some point really sound like really guitars.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole thing is color, 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 as in you never know what's happening next in this piece in terms of the way you use electronics to bring in instruments I never dreamt I'd ever hear on this piece, for example. I mean, it's just incredible. Yeah, anything else on guitars for two clarinets and electronic? By the way, you do have a sense of humor, right? Or are you in denial?
I would like to I would like to think I do, but.
Because that's hilarious. And there's another, Cantabile Hop
Hmm.
for piano and small ensemble. It's in three parts. Very interesting piece. Tell us a little bit about it, and I guess we'd better run it down. I want to speak to Quali, and then we'll do a review and be out of here.
Um,
Cantabile.
this is a piano concerto. There's another piece called Piano Concerto, which is the same piece, but for piano and orchestra, right? So same concept. Before Vincent Van Geller, who wanted the concerto, before he got to play it with the orchestra, I said, let's write it first for a combo, and let's play it a few times.
That's a
By
great
the time
idea.
I meet the orchestra, I mean, it's cold, and I know what to change if I need to change things. And also with the challenge, can I write piano concerto and play it with the combo and still be a piano concerto? And I thought of a piano concerto as something more along the lines of band leader with band, or Ravel concerto in G, as opposed to the big statement and counter statement, right, of the Romantic tradition. So basically, it is one big cantabile line of the piano with all sort of things, but basically you should be able to whistle one way or another throughout the 15 minutes or 14 minutes of the piece with a really hopefully interesting rhythm section with percussion bass and in the case of the recording viola.
I wondered. I guess I missed it on the program because the sound was a lower string sound. Thank you for clarifying that in my mind. Uh, well, let's quickly just look at Qualia, the piano piece. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. Here's what I said. I love it from the beginning notes. A persistent pulse, lots of bright piano color. It's a and to compliment you once again, it's a real contemporary piano piece. has all of the challenges with it, with jazzy trimmings and so on.
Well, coming, I mean, in my younger age, we come from the non-tonal tradition, right? I come uh, from the avant-garde of my youth in a way, and I rediscovered what might be thought as tonal harmonies, not because of the tonal function. I don't think of harmony in the way of traditional tonality, of a way to have a discourse. To me, the harmonies are about the color, the sound, rather than a way to move the discourse and the form and the function, etc., of traditional tonal music. So I'm happy that you're hearing all of those colors because that's what really matters to me is how things are voiced. So what is the actual sound that you hear? And
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, and in uh, the rhythms somehow or the rhythmic nature is this is essentially a percussion piece, and that a singable percussion piece. And there's a lot of many rhythms have to be played at the same time, but yet it doesn't sound busy, or it shouldn't sound busy.
Mm. Yeah, and also once again the ceaseless surprises that you've actually just described. The idea of I keep using the term episodes, the sort of little sequences or that come and change and excite the diversity of what you deliver for us. Go.
Well, because if you do, I mean, because I don't use the tonal language in the traditional sense of a way of working the form. Therefore, developments, motivic developments, disappear out of the discourse, right? Therefore, the music tends to be episodic because the concept of the development is no longer usable or viable for a piece where the harmony is not the driving force.
Thank you very much. I wish I had taken notes. That's absolutely brilliant. I hope I can remember that in my head when I speak with future composers. But you've just described it, what I experience with my ears, very clearly. I think I understand you about you get rid of certain traditions in terms of that tradition of how harmony is used to progress from one point to another, and instead we are confronted with, as you mentioned, episodic moments here, a change of pulse there, a whole different color in some other aspect, and then somehow it all, in each of these pieces, somehow it all works out. I love the way you end all of your pieces. There's just something so interesting and unique and inventive about your compositional technique, period. That's to repeat myself ad nauseum. Alejandro Rutty, what a pleasure it's been to have a chance to chat with you. The CD involved, I'm going to put it up, as I've mentioned, at performingartsreview.net. We're going to have videos. All of you out there who watch professional musicians, this is chock-a-block with some very interesting repertoire. What I'm coming away with from seeing all of these, meeting all these fresh and wonderful composers such as yourself, is the repertoire is huge, it's gigantic, but people need to be pointed. So I hope people will pay, especially professional musicians that are among those many subscribers at Performing Arts Review, will have a look at so much of the repertoire that I'm happy to speak to. But this is really a sweet album, Exhaling Space.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's been great to talk to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks very much. We'll see each other again, I'm sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.